guys. The last couple of weeks I've been talking to a guy over in Tennessee. He has a Silver Shadow too, and we were talking about, you know, the car and maybe trying to do a deal. I found out that he's a diesel guy, and he also drives a 123 300 diesel turbo, which he's, you know, hopped up a little bit. And we started talking, and, you know, I let him know that I had a couple of those 123s, and he expressed interest in some Euro cars. He was looking for Euro bumpers, and it so happened that I had an 83 123 diesel Euro car. So we started talking about doing a deal, and I ended up basically agreeing to trade him the 300 diesel with the Rolls Royce. Of course, I'll be giving some money. I mean, the car that he actually owns, actually, at least in the pictures, looks like a nice car. It was running, but he'd let it sit for a while and it stopped running. But it seems to me like it may be just not running from sitting. He did indicate that there was problems with the brakes. He said that he rebuilt the valves, you know, whatever, that pump underneath the intake manifold as well. And but as soon as you start the engine, the brakes would lock up. So I'm not sure what it is. You know, it sounds like a classic symptom on those braking systems, where if a hose is collapsed internally, it could cause that. But you know, I have no idea. But in any case, I have the 300 diesel strapped to the trailer. We worked out a deal where we would meet halfway. So Memphis is where we're going to meet, and we're going to trade cars. And I'm going to come back home with the Silver Shadow. So stay tuned. I'm going to turn the radio. I'm just on the road right now. Probably I've driven about 200 miles. I've probably got another 300-400 miles left. But I should be there by about 3:30, and we'll be able to see what we have and if we can do a deal. Thank you. Hey, Jared.
All right, so it's Christmas Day today, and I bought my first Bentley, the Bentley Brooklands, in January 2018. And since then, I've really gotten into the Rolls Royce and Bentley brand. This is, you know, before BMW and Volkswagen, you know, bought them. I'm really interested in those cars. One car that I've always wanted to have is a Silver Shadow or a Wraith, and I've tried a couple of times this year to buy these cars, and you know, haven't been lucky at the auction. So I thought I'd put a wanted ad in the Craigslist, see if, you know, anybody's got one locally that may be interested in selling them, because shipping was just killing me on any of these car purchases I've been making, you know, in California and other places. I got a call from a guy in Tennessee, and he told me that he had a 79 Silver Shadow, and that life got in the way, and you know, you know, as you can see, I was heading up to Tennessee with this 300D behind me. Obviously, you know, trying to be really thorough and making sure that, you know, if we go up there, we're not going to, you know, go back empty-handed, or, you know, with the same cars that we came with. So I made sure that I took a video of this 300D. It wasn't a nice car. I mean, it was an okay car. It ran and drove. The body was pretty straight, but it was like every other 300D. It had 1 million miles on it, and it was kind of worn out. So I made sure that, I took a video of the car, walked all the way around it, lifted the hood, started the engine, drove it around the block, backwards and forwards and everything else like that, so that the guy I was doing the trade with, knew what he was getting, in exchange for his car. It was a long trip. It was 900 miles round trip, so I just wanted to make sure that he was 100% comfortable with doing this deal before I loaded the car up on the trailer and headed out to Tennessee. He said that it was exactly what he wanted. I think the most important thing to him was that the bumpers were in good shape.
I got to Memphis yesterday around 3:30.
Take those bumpers, put them in his car, and I think what he's going to do.
Met the guy, real nice guy. He already had the Rolls Royce unloaded. It was a horrible day.
It was a good deal for both of us.
Really wet, cold. Really wasn't dressed for it.
We just made it work, and when I got there to Tennessee, he'd already unloaded
it wasn't that bad.
Rolls Royce,
and
change money.
To set off as quickly as possible. I just wanted to leave and drive on. There was still a little bit of daylight.
Weather
it was still gloomy. So I didn't take any videos while I got there.
It took us about an hour to unload it and load up the cars.
Get loaded up and head home.
By then it was pretty dark already at night, so I didn't take any.
I got home around 11:30.
Just jumped in the car.
By the time I actually got in the house.
So there's no kind of
probably
review.
midnight. I had to take all the tools out, the truck,
load up.
lock everything up.
Anyway, so now we'll be basically going back to the.
It was exhausting, all together. You had a 450-mile drive up there, a 450-mile drive back, and then about an hour of loading and unloading. Ended up stopping for gas twice, once on the way up, once on the way back, which was a good thing because I needed to check the straps and make sure that everything was on tight. All in all, fairly uneventful. The only really hairy incident that I had was when the traffic just at one time, just stopped. And I don't understand exactly why, because when we drove past that whole section of road, I mean, there was no accident or anything else like that, but I guess it just bottlenecks in that area, and it just ground to a halt. And I had to throw the anchors out, and obviously I have all this weight behind me, and almost got messy. But luckily everything was okay. Had a couple of idiot drivers on the road. I don't think people realise when you're pulling a trailer behind you, you can't stop or turn on a dime, and they'll just weave in and out in front of you and speed up, pull out in front of you, and then slow down for some reason. I don't get it. You have these, absent-minded drivers. They'll be speeding for 1 minute, and then they'll pick up their phone and start checking their Facebook or whatever they do, and then they'll slow right down, and you're kind of always trying to get around them. I must have passed the same guy driving back from right all the way through Arkansas and into Texas. I probably passed him like 15 times. He'd speed up, and then he'd just slow down, and then he'd speed up, and then just slow down. And he didn't even have his headlights on. He had daytime running lights on. He didn't even know his headlights were on. Tail lights weren't on. Not sure exactly what the deal was. Anyway, my truck behaved really well for the most part. No trouble whatsoever. At 75 miles an hour, this thing just rocks. You can't even feel the trailer behind you. So it's great. I mean, it'll go as if this Rolls Royce wasn't sitting behind it. It just won't stop that way. But in any case, all in all, fairly uneventful. If I was to do it again, I wouldn't do it again. Especially if I didn't have to deliver a car. It really pays to pay somebody else to do this kind of stuff. If it was just a one-way trip, it would probably cost me $200, maybe $300 more to have somebody deliver it, and you know, my time, my stress levels, not worth it. So anyway, I'm going to get to the shop. You know, on the subject of getting cars delivered, I actually have another car that's being delivered right now, so I'm going up to the shop to get that taken care of. Once I get to the shop, I'll shoot a video of the car and you can see it for yourself. Alright guys, thanks very much. Alright guys, so I'm back at the building right now. Okay, so here you have it. So it's a 1979 Rolls Royce Silver Shadow, gold and brown or black, I'm not sure. Seems to be from what the previous owner told me, it was a California car originally, then it went to Georgia. He bought it when he was living in Alabama and moved to Tennessee, and obviously that's where I bought it. Seemed like a nice guy. He did some work to the car. He said that there was an issue with the braking where the brakes would lock up as soon as you crank the engine on. He said that he rebuilt the number 2 pump, and he did some other work to the car. He said he had it running after you know, he pulled the intake manifold off and everything else like that and put it all back together again. It was all running, but you know, he let it sit for a while and it stopped, and I can kind of understand that because I was you know, underneath the car getting it strapped up and everything, and sure enough, I mean, it smelled of old gas. I've already started tinkering with it, which is why you see the hood and the trunk lit up, and I'm trying to figure out a couple of issues. So I'll give you a quick walk around. It's not going to be the greatest walk around because I've got so much stuff around right now. It's kind of a mess inside the shop. I had to back the car in and use my W123 280 TE wagon to push it in. So you see where I put this tire here. The reason I put it there is because I was worried about any kind of you know, it backing into this post and causing damage. I've got a great big H8 battery on there right now. It's the only battery I have available to me, so I'm just using it for the sake of using it. See inside the car. Door caps are in okay shape. I mean, the clear's peeling off, but the actual veneer seems to be pretty nice. Seats are also, you know, not horrible. There's a little bit of tearing underneath the on the right bottom of the driver's seat. You can see that there's some rust in the floor pans. That's why the carpets are lifted. But the dash is in pretty good shape, which is good fortune. It's got this what we call crash film. If you guys are familiar with salvage, you know, buying cars at salvage, you might see this quite often. But what it is basically, it's like a sticky film that you put anywhere that's like maybe a broken glass or something like that to stop, you know, rain from coming in. So what the previous owner was telling me is that where the stripping was bad and it was letting water in, which is why you have you know, rusty floors. So he put this stuff on, and he obviously had it on for a little bit longer than he needed to, and as a result, you know, when he peeled it off, it was still there. But wax and grease remover should be able to remove it. Here's the engine. I'm going to go around the other side because the light's too bright here on this side. But here's the engine. Engine looks like it's pretty much all there. It's a California car, so it's got smog pump. I'm having a problem. I'm having a couple of problems. So when I put a hot battery on this car, the alternator starts smoking. And you know, I was initially concerned that, you know, I'm having a pretty severe, well, I mean, I'm definitely having a short, but I don't know whether it's coming from the wiring or is it coming from the alternator itself. So I'm probably going to pull the alternator off and remove the wiring and see if it's still going to do that. Maybe the alternator is bad, maybe the wiring itself is the problem. I'm not sure. Maybe there's a ground somewhere when there shouldn't be.
The other issue that I have, I'm going to come around here again. Let's see, let me just reach over for this over there. So I'm learning this car, guys, so you know, be patient with me, because I may ask some silly questions. But right now, what I see is two fuel lines. Okay, they're going in to the you know, underneath of the car, and they come out here, and I'm guessing this one goes to the SSU. Well, I'm not exactly sure how this all goes, but I'm guessing these are the fuel lines, right? Because I don't see anything else. Yeah, I gotta learn this setup. So I'm assuming this is a fuel line. This goes to one of the SUs, and this goes to the other one on the other side. There's a let's see if I can get that there. There's a couple of vacuum lines. You can see this vacuum line over here, right? And then there's another one right here. Right here, can you see what my finger is? Right, this guy. Oh, annoying. This guy over here. Is there supposed to be something there, or is it just one, you know, just a broken connection? No idea. That hose is to the air pump is completely, it's as hard as a rock. So I got to figure out what the deal is going there. The car will start from ether, so if I squirt ether into the carburetor, it will start. I put some fresh gas in the fuel tank, and when I plug the battery in and I turn the ignition on, I can hear the fuel pump. But I'm not, you know, I opened up these fuel lines over here, and I don't see any fuel coming out. So I'm guessing that there's some kind of blockage somewhere, right? Either that or the fuel pump is making noise, but, you know, maybe just sucking air in or something like that, which it could do, you know. What else have I done? I took off all the screws to the brake reservoir, and so I removed the lid off the brake reservoir, and I took this filter out and cleaned it. I just used a little bit of brake clean to clean it. The brake fluid on the back side is it's about level, but it looks pretty clean. On the front side, it's completely drained down, so there's obviously a leak somewhere. This thing came out. I'm not sure exactly where it goes. I don't know whether it goes here or somewhere else, but it just came out, so I have no idea what that is. If anyone knows, let me know. But I got to figure out why the front is leaky, and remove those two plates and see the state of that reservoir, how dirty it is underneath it. You know, I've seen some really horrible videos on YouTube where people are trying to clean that out, and it just looks disgusting. Hey guys, so one thing I did while I was here is I took the alternator off. It's kind of hard to work inside this spot, but I was able to undo these things just to move this, be able to move this around, lift this, unbolt this bracket, and there's one underneath, and then jiggle the alternator through the front, which was a bit of an effort, but here's the alternator in itself. I'm going to pick it up and take it somewhere where we can get a little bit more light. Let me get the drop light. Okay, not sure if you can see this well enough. Part numbers on it are AC5B 1253, and then it says DESP number 126 OB292 12, and then 2978, 12 volts, 2978. So I'm guessing this has got to be the original alternator, and the 2978 probably stands for the week and the year.
that the alternator was made. On the back, it's got a positive and a negative port, and then it's got a couple of connections here, which I'm guessing are for the generator light, you know, and stuff like that. I'm not sure exactly what else, but I'm guessing it, you know, either the exciter and the generator light or something like that. I'm not sure if this has got an internal or an external voltage regulator. That might be the voltage regulator for all I know. So I'm going to go and look up these part numbers and see if I could find some information. I'm guessing it's the original Rolls Royce one, but I could be wrong. But in any case, any thoughts? I'd be grateful, and stay tuned. Thank you. Alright guys, so I took a quick trip to AutoZone, and I was able to find this Delco Remy alternator. They had it in stock. It was $50 something plus a $25 core charge, so about 75 bucks. Looks to be exactly the same one that's on my Corniche. Single wire setup with you know, the exciter wires over here. Got to figure out how to wire all that stuff up and make it right on the Silver Shadow, because I don't get an alternator light on my Corniche, and it drives me crazy. Also, sometimes it fails to excite. You know, you have to basically run the engine for a while before the alternator starts engaging. In any case, here's the alternator. Bracket appears to kind of work for the most part. I'm hoping that everything will fit. You can see here that this is obviously a little bit shorter, and I used this copper pipe and cut it down to size. So I'm using this. I'm going to make a sleeve out of it, so it's going to go in here like that, and hopefully it should work. The only thing I'm worried about is the length, but I think it's going to be okay, right? You know, this length versus this length. Hopefully it will work. I'm going to test fit it right now and then see how I get along. Hey guys, all right, so quick update. So I picked up the old alternator and I took it to a rebuilder this week, yesterday on Christmas Eve. Really good guys. I'll get the name and post it on our on the video when I do the upload. But they spent maybe a couple of hours with me, you know, and didn't charge me for it. Where they were trying to figure out like an optimal solution. You know, the problem that I had is that the ears are too short on this one, and they showed me like a couple of alternative alternators. I mean, I learned a lot about alternators in the last couple of days, but in short, I think what I have is going to work. As you can see over here, I have a socket on the bottom bolt of that bracket that is used for adjustment, and I was able to break it loose. I didn't realize there was a bolt there, to be honest with you, until I was talking to a friend of mine and who also has a Corniche, and he was able to show me. He just took a video, and when I was looking underneath I was like, hey, there's a bolt there, and then I came back over here and sure enough there was one. So with that bolt loosened, I can now adjust the bracket. By adjusting the bracket, I should be able to mount this alternator. So now that leaves the wiring. And bear in mind, I don't know too much about the electrical components. That's not really my strong point. I was a little bit concerned about the you know, reusing the existing wiring versus running new wires. I really didn't want to run new wires because I was just a little bit concerned that, you know, I'd have to take the whole car apart and everything else like that. But I was also concerned that, you know, what with the external voltage regulator, how's that going to play into the equation? So this right here is the original alternator wire. So this is the one that goes on the back of the original alternator. There is a pigtail hanging off it that was just left hanging loose, but it's really convenient for me because I could use that pigtail to plug into the side of the alternator for the voltage regulator. So that's perfect. Then there was a ground wire right here, which I can also mount. It's very convenient. And you've got these other two connections, and what I see here is there's this bridged connection. It's like two wires in one, which I'm assuming is for the voltage regulator, and this other green and brown wire, which I assume is for the generator light. So I'll double check those. So what I'll do is I'll just start the plug the battery in and put the car in the on position and see if this light lights up. Now then I know it's generator light. If it's hot. What I was worried about is what to do about the external voltage regulator, because obviously if it's wired up, it's going to create me problems, and it's in the trunk and I don't know what to do with it. But I think if I just eliminate, as in not plug in that voltage regulator, it's not going to do anything. I tried to verify that on the forum. Asked a bunch of questions on the technical discussion groups on Facebook, and I got absolutely nowhere. Right, and I hate to gripe because we're all enthusiasts, but usually when I work on Mercedes Benz and I work on BMWs, if you ask a question, you'll get an answer. More often than not, the answer is going to be correct, or it's going to be a correct answer. On the Rolls Royce technical forum, if you ask a question, the answer is usually not even related to the question. Right, and it's like I ask a technical question on a technical forum, and somebody responds and says, "You need to go and see this mechanic." I don't understand why. My hobby is working on cars. The car is not the hobby. Working on the car is the hobby. If I can't work on my own car, I'll buy a Toyota. So I have no interest in seeing a mechanic. Now, I'm sure that there's some very talented guys out there, and maybe one day I'm going to need them because I'm going to be over my head, but not today. Not for a simple alternator wiring question. So, guys, I mean, if it's going to be a technical question, provide an answer, right? If you don't have an answer, if you don't know, don't respond, because you'll just add to the confusion. And that's what I see in a lot of these threads, is that one guy will ask a simple question and 1,000 people respond who really don't know the answer. They don't even answer the right question. They kind of take the whole conversation down a different road. So gripe over just it's just kind of frustrating, because you just really it's a struggle to get these cars worked out. And it's a push-rod engine, SU carburetor, 1979 car. It's not that complicated. This isn't a black car. It's just people just need to go in and start working on their cars. All right, with that said, gripe over. I'm going to see if I can get that adjusted, see if I can get the alternator mounted. I'm going to take the alternator out right now so I can put a double pulley on it. I did get a double pulley from the alternator shop that I went to. And then I'm going to see if I can mount the thing back up. And then I'll move to the fuel pump. All right, guys. Thank you. Guys, so the alternator's on. I was able to adjust that bracket. The belt is on backwards, but I'll take care of that. It's right now, it's just like it's on super tight. But I have a belt on order, so I'll take care of that later on. As you can see, we've got one terminal, the positive terminal I've just wired up. If you can see below it, there's this brown wire that sticks out of the positive terminal. Let's see if you can see it properly. I know there's a lot of shadows. See that? So if I understand this correctly, that's got to go on to the terminal number 2 here,
which I don't know which one's 1 and 2, so I'll figure that out. It's obviously too short, so what I did is I made a little extension, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to connect this to number 2, and then I think if I can figure out what the bulb wire is out of that connection, which should be pretty straightforward, I can just basically plug the battery in and run a test light and see what's active. That should allow me to figure out which should go into terminal number 1. And once I get it on terminal number 1, I should still have my generator light, and I should also be able to do the voltage regulation. And then the rest of the wires that go to the voltage regulator, I can just basically tape up and push over to the side. All right, guys. So I got underneath the car and I could hear the fuel pump running, but I can't see anything coming out. Of there's no fuel coming out. I undid one of the hoses and it was relatively dry. It didn't feel like it had any kind of pressure. So what I did, and I'll get underneath the car, after I do this test, is I disconnected that hose and I followed it to a block that goes to a set of steel lines, or one steel line to the engine, or I'm guessing to the engine. So I ran this basically universal fuel pump into this jerry can, and I've got it wired to a charger. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can get it started with this kind of setup. I'm not going to let it run for long because I'm terrified that it would catch fire, to be honest with you. But I'm even more terrified of crawling underneath this car, with just a jack stand underneath it. I'd really want to use my lift, but my lift is tied up. So I did cap the fuel. I used a set of clamps to clamp the fuel line that's coming out of the pump anyway. So it shouldn't leak or anything else like that. I just made sure as a precaution, even though there doesn't seem to be anything running. But I just didn't want to, take a chance. So I haven't tried running this yet or anything else like that. So you're seeing it while I'm seeing it, and I really hope that nothing bad happens. Right, so the battery's plugged in. Okay. I don't know how strong that battery is. I might need to switch it out with another one. I've been cranking a lot in this car. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to put this down for a quick second. Alright, so that pump's running and should have plenty of pressure. Alright, so there's nothing going on right now. I'm going to go and cut the battery charger off. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to undo these lines over here and then see if there's any fuel coming out of them. So these two lines, this one over here and then that one over there. And I'm going to see if there's any kind of fuel coming out of them. So I'll just put it on pause right now until making some progress, but I have to do this very quickly and then cut the thing off. Okay, so it's running, but it's also leaking fuel over here. So I've got to be real careful. So what you see over here is the fuel started overflowing from a hose, and I saw this happen before, which I guess if the carburetor is overfilled, there's an overflow and it just goes straight on the ground. There's no return to the tank. No idea why, but there you go. So you have this problem over here. So not sure exactly what to do about that. I'm guessing once I get the fuel pump figured out the actual original fuel pump, this thing will go away, but you guys can tell me if you know any better. So as I mentioned, you know, I've got this fuel pump rigged up this way, which is really freaking sketchy, but what can you do? I'm going to plug the drop light in. I'm going to get this fuel out of the way. The fuel pump, right? So when the car runs, the fuel pump does run. I'm not exactly sure why it's not feeding fuel, but it could be just screwed up, or you know, there's another reason. I'm not going to find out until I get this thing on the lift, because I don't really want to crawl underneath it. So this fuel hose goes to this deal over here, which I'm not sure what this deal is, but as you can see, I've capped it off. I just capped it off just to make sure that, you know, if this fuel pump runs and all of a sudden it starts dumping fuel, I don't want fuel all over the place. So this hose over here I took off, and what I did is I ran a hose to this fuel tank, to this little universal fuel pump over here, and sure enough, this thing was able to feed fuel up. I just ran it off this battery charger, and it was able to feed fuel up. Now, you know, as you can see down there, you can see this big puddle. I guess once it hit the carburetors and just filled the float balls up, it just kept on running and overfilled the carburetors. So I'm guessing there's some kind of mechanism, some kind of relay at the fuel pump that stops that from happening once it hits a certain pressure. And because I wasn't using the factory wiring, I you know, run into this issue. As you can see over here, this is really jacked up. So you've got this exhaust pipe coming down on the passenger side, and it's just basically bent out. And then I guess it's supposed to go into this resonator over here, and that resonator is hollow. So, you know, that's why you heard it and it ran like shit. But, you know, it's fine. It's just one of those things we've got to figure out. You know, as of now, you know, I know I can get this car running, right? So I'm pretty happy about that. It's just, you know, I got to, you know, figure out, you know, what I need to do next. But, you know, for now, what I'll do is I've got to trim this fuel line and put it all back together again. I've got to find out what this deal is. I have no idea what it is, but there's obviously some kind of significance. Maybe it's a fuel filter and the fuel filter's blocked up. No idea. So we'll find out. So there you have it. My 1979 Rolls Royce Silver Shadow. I'm kind of excited about it.